So I think the biggest challenge was to create the MPC, the new MPC protocol, the new scheme. And this is even before you think about the network, right? The implementation, which is the code itself. And I think the biggest challenge was that we created something that was new and unique. And we were the first ones to do, right? No one did it before us.
GM, and welcome to BlockHunters Voices Episode 6. My name is Joachim Văju, and I'm your host for today. BlockHunters Voices is a platform where we explore the journeys, stories, and insights of blockchain innovators and leaders, as well as the technologies driving their projects. Welcome to today's discussions, where we have the pleasure of speaking with Omer, an expert in cybersecurity with a distinguished background, including significant roles in Israeli military intelligence and as a founder of multiple successful companies. Omer is here to share insights on his research venture, the dWallet network. Welcome, Omer. How are you today?
Good. Thank you, Akim, for having me today. It's really a pleasure.
Great to have you here. I usually want to start from the beginning because I feel that it's important to know the person from his roots. So you basically have a background in cybersecurity with experience founding several companies and serving in Israeli military intelligence. Could you share some insights into your journey leading up to the co-founding of dWallet?
Yeah, of course. So, I started with technology and engineering, computing since I was very young. If I'm not wrong, like around 11 years old. So a long time ago. And along the time I also got into the cybersecurity space. And then when I got to the army, I went to the intelligence corps, right? Because it was something that I came up with. I came with some background, with something that I already knew. And then, I got into the deeper side of cybersecurity, right? Like how you do very large scale stuff, right? How you think differently about threats, how you analyze threats, how you think about attack vectors. And this is how I came into the idea after that of API security, right? API security is a category in cybersecurity. It's a category that I thought about, right? I came up with the concept, with the category, and I started the first company in that space called the Soul Security, which today is a unicorn. And it was from the understanding of the problem, of the issues that APIs are facing, and what's possible to do and what's not possible to do, and how you can do stuff, right? So I really started when I was really, really young, that I got to a place where you have a lot of expertise, right? And you get a lot of knowledge, stuff that it's really, really hard to get outside. And then I started my own venture, and I tried to solve one of the problems in cybersecurity in Web 2. And this is also the way that I got into the issue of that we're solving with the dWallet network, right? And the whole concept that I think is something that is fundamentally missing in Web3 today. And Web3 is something that also I was really fascinated and excited when Bitcoin started and Ethereum started. And during those phases of Web3, I was like a user, right? I was part of the ecosystem. I wasn't a builder. I didn't work on a specific solution or a specific product, but I really, really liked the space, and I knew that the next thing that I'm going to do is going to be in Web3, in crypto. And when I looked on that, from the cybersecurity expert, from things that you look differently than, the normal user, I noticed a huge problem that people, I think in Web3 people start to get those issues and they start to focus on. And I think at the beginning when we started with Web3, it was really the focus. And I think because of, in the space people want to innovate and projects want to innovate, and there are certain things that are challenging and hard to solve, so they focused less on the security side, right? And they try to solve it. They try to bring innovation without thinking about the security. And one of those issues, and this is our focus, is called the zero trust architecture. So the idea, and this concept comes from Web 2, cybersecurity. In Web 2, the idea is that you have a network. If I get into the network, I can do whatever I want, right? And this is called castle and moat, because you have the castle, which is the network. You have the moat, which is the security parameter that should block me from getting into the castle. But if I get into it, I can do whatever I want. And that became a huge issue because, attackers got into networks and they got full access and they could have done whatever they want with no limit. And then the idea of zero trust evolved from that. And the idea of zero trust says trust nothing, verify everything. So the idea of zero trust is to focus all the time only on this part, only of the action that the user wants to do, and to verify that it's the real user, to verify the identity, to verify everything around that. And this concept, this evolution in Web 2 is something that we have missing in some aspects of Web3, and I'll get into it later. But I think from your question, this concept of zero trust and castle and moat and the differences, those are concepts of cybersecurity that I took and I used into bringing this new type of thinking in Web3. And this is something that is very missing.
Now, I'm very curious. Could you explain the dWallet concept in simpler terms, like for a non-technical point of view?
Yes, of course. So I think the way to think about it is from the zero trust aspect. So the problem that we had in Web3 was that when Bitcoin, Ethereum, L1 started, their design was that every user sign a transaction, right? You have your private key or seed phrase, and then the transaction will be included in the block, and then everyone can verify that it was you, right? Because of the signature. It's verifiable by everyone, right? And this is why blockchains are zero trust by default, right? You don't need to create anything, you don't need to add anything to blockchains, and you have that part of zero trust to any of them. The issue comes whenever you want to operate across different chains, and you have different solutions, you have different ideas to how to solve that, but I'll give you just an example. If you use, for example, Uniswap, right, and you use Uniswap between Uni and ETH, then it's all zero trust, because Uni lives on Ethereum, and ETH also lives on Ethereum. Then you have transactions between those different assets, right? And what you have there is, it's the zone of sovereignty. So they live on the same zone of sovereignty, so it's all zero trust. The issue is whenever you make the trade between ETH to WBTC, for example. And when you do that with ETH to WBTC, then what you actually do is that you use wrapped BTC, right? And what you do is to sacrifice the zero trust, and then you actually live in the castle and moat architecture. Because you have BitGo, and now it's also going to change, right? But at least for now we have BitGo, and BitGo is the custodian, right? And then they are the castle, and the moat is their security. So you have to rely on them, right? You have to rely on a third party. And the idea of dWallet is to enable zero trust protocols, right? So to build new type of protocols where you don't have to do that. You can create protocols that operate across different networks, across different chains, without sacrificing the zero trust assumptions. Which means that you don't have to rely on a third party, you don't need to trust on external source for the truth, you don't have to worry about the nodes or the validators of a network that they can collude or steal the assets. There is not such a thing. And also that reduces the honeypot. The honeypot is the what you get as an attacker, right? From attacking, let's say it's WBTC, right? If I attack BitGo and I steal all the Bitcoin, or even if I use that to create a lot of wrapped BTC and then steal assets on different chains, right? There are different types of attacks that you can do. And this is the honeypot, right? What's the incentive to make that attack? And whenever the architecture is castle and moat, you have that honeypot, and that honeypot grows all the time. If you have more assets, if the protocol is more successful, if the infrastructure is more successful, so if you get more value, then the honeypot, then the incentive increases. And the idea of zero trust is that you don't have that because you can't steal the asset, right? And this is exactly what dWallet does. So the idea of a dWallet is a new primitive that enable users through protocols, right? So I can build, for example, I can build a Gnosis safe that is multi-chain, and this solution can be a zero trust, right, as a protocol, which means that there is no way to steal the assets, right? So if you use Gnosis safe and you hold WBTC, you rely on BitGo, right? But if you use dWallet, then you don't have to rely on a third party to hold the assets, right? And the idea is that it's cryptographically secure, which means that the user itself holds, it's called user share, and it means that it's cryptographically secure from stealing the assets from the user.
But also the multi-party computation is an important key to the dWallet network, right?
Yeah, this is how it's implemented. So the way that we implemented this concept, right? So you have the user share, and then you have the network share, and you need both sides together to sign, right? You need the participation of the user and the blockchain, and the implementation that we did to build dWallets and to build this zero trust infrastructure is with creating a new protocol, a new scheme of MPC. We call it 2PC MPC. Okay, and the 2PC MPC is the first MPC protocol to enable the participation of both users and network, and the network is a decentralized network, right? So you need 2/3 of the validators to participate. The idea of dWallet, compared to any other solution that you have today for multi-chain, is that the user has guarantee that there is no way to steal the assets without the user permission. So if you think about any bridge, for example, that this is a way to create wrapped asset, and we have seen many examples of bridges got hacked by different attacks, right? And if you try to sum it up, it goes to billions. And the problem again is that it's castle and moat. This is the architecture. So it means that if I get into the castle, right? If I get control over the bridge, or it can be cross-chain messaging, it can be also chain abstraction, federated MPC. You have different examples. They all work very, very similar. But the problem is that in any of those solutions, if I am as an attacker got into those solutions, I can take everything. And the difference with dWallet is that even if you get full access to the network, and also you get or you collude, you're part of the network and you try to collude with everybody, there is no way for you to steal the assets. You still need each user separately to participate in order to take the user assets.
Given your background in cybersecurity, how do you address the balance between privacy and security? Are there any unique privacy features that dWallet offer compared to traditional solutions?
So if you think about it, at the end of the day, so we talked about how we created that, how we build it. So if you think about it, in order to be able to sign, you need keys, right? This is how you do that. And then if you want to create a decentralized version of keys, right? And you want also to have a very specific structure, a very specific scheme, and also you want it to be very secure, you have to have privacy, right? So the privacy is for the key. It's not exactly the way that you would think about, having my details encrypted. It's much more complicated than that, right? It's having different secret shares that if you combine them, you can reveal the key. It's a bit more complicated, but at the end of the day, in order to do that, you need to have those capabilities, right? So at the end of the day, the idea of MPC is for running a computation between different parties without any of them revealing their private information. So this is the concept. And the way that we treat it is that we needed to have a very specific type of MPC because we wanted the user and the blockchain, and it's super important for us that you can get the user share, right? So if you think from the privacy perspective, so you have the user side, right? And you have the network side, and also the network side lives on the network, and no one has access to the partial key, right? It's not really partial key, but just to make it easier to think about it. So that at the end of the day, the solution is a very specific privacy for keys. In order to do that, we had to build a team. We have on the team today we have around 15 cryptographers on the team. It took us almost 2 years to build this new cryptographic scheme, 2PC MPC. And the reason is because it's very, very hard, right? Because at any point of the protocol, right? Any stage, whenever you want to create a dWallet, right? So whenever you generate the keys or whenever you want to sign, you need to make sure that there is no attack vector, right? Because maybe there is a way for one of the participants to steal the keys, right? And again, like what we're talking about, we're treating the key as the part that we want to have privacy for. So it's really, really hard to create a solution where you want all of those participants to do that and to have great performance at the same time and to have many participants. So in our case, we are the first threshold DCDSA MPC solution that can support hundreds to thousands of participants.
You said you've been working for 2 years on the dWallet network. Can you tell me what kind of challenges did you encountered and how the team overcome these challenges?
Yeah, so I think the biggest challenge was to create the MPC, the new MPC protocol, the new scheme. And this is even before you think about the network, right? The implementation, which is the code itself. And I think the biggest challenge was that we created something that was new and unique, and we were the first ones to do, right? No one did it before us. So we really started from a point where when you do something and you don't know for sure, right? You have no certainty that you can do that, right? Usually when you build a new company, a new project, a new solution, a new protocol, you have an idea, right? It might be hard, it might be challenging, but you know that, I'll spend 6 months, I'll spend 1 year, I'll spend 2 years, eventually I'll build that. Here it's a bit different because what we wanted to build, we had no certainty that it's possible to do.
Oh, okay. So it was a little bit of a gamble over there.
It wasn't exactly gamble because we are coming with experience, right? And we know that what we tried to achieve was very, very tough, right? It was an hard mission, and it wasn't something that you just know this is the steps to do that. And also, we didn't know how much time we need, right? We thought that it will take us between 6 months to 1 year. Eventually, it took us 2 years. We still think it's amazing, right? Because if you compare all the breakthroughs that we had to the progress of MPC, in 2 years we did what took the space 5 years, right? Even more than that, right? So I think the end result was like insane. But yeah, it was kind of gambling at the end of the day, because you create something new and it's based on math. It's like physics, right? It's like, let's say I tell you I want to build a new type of rocket that nobody built before. It's you have to gamble a little bit, right? You have to bet on your experience of your team to be able to achieve that. You don't really know if you can do that.
Yeah, but that's life, right? That's the beauty of it. And how many people contributed in all those years?
So I think the focus at the beginning was mostly on the cryptography team. At the beginning, we started as 4 people on the team, and then we added more and more and more people until today. Today we have 15 people on the cryptography team. On the other team, we have the engineering, we have the cybersecurity team. Overall, if I add up all the different teams that we have in the project, we are around today 40 people in total. Yeah, but still the cryptography team is the largest one.
So that's where the main focus is. Yes, but the network aims to introduce a new level of composability and modularity to smart contracts. How do you envision this affecting the development of other apps in the future?
So the issue that we've seen with many projects that creating a new network is that if you create a new ecosystem, you have to compete with existing ecosystems, right? You create your own environment, your own framework, your own tools. Then builders from different environments needs to move to your environment. They need to deploy new smart contracts in your environment, right? You have to compete and to create something that it really depends on the use case, right? But if you create in an L1, it makes sense. But if you create a new primitive like we do, a dWallet, which enables you to operate across different networks with a zero trust architecture, right, which is the safest and the most secure way to operate across different networks. So because this is what we do, we see no point of competing with different ecosystems, right, or different networks. We actually want the exact opposite. We want to collaborate with them. So the path that we took is that instead of competing with them, is actually to enable dWallets to those different networks. So the idea is that we have integrations with other networks. Today we had with Ethereum and with Sui, where we announced already integration with the Monad, Avail, and a few other, Aptos. So already we have the partnerships in place, and we're building the integrations. But the idea is that you will be able to build from those ecosystems the solution that you want, right? The ZTP, Zero Trust Protocols, using dWallets, right? So you can build whatever you want. It will be completely zero trust, and you don't really need to move, right? You don't have to go from one ecosystem to a different ecosystem. So it means that you'll be able, from a smart contract on Ethereum, to control a dWallet that signs transactions on Solana, right? Or a dWallet that controls BTC on Bitcoin. And you can build whatever logic that you want, right? The logic can be custody, decentralized custody. It can be lending. It can be atomic swaps, right? It can be trading the dWallet, right? So you can think about any type of solution that you want to create your multi-chain protocol. But the difference here is that you keep the zero trust assumption. So the user knows that there is no way to steal the assets from the user without the user's permission.
So basically, the single vulnerability is the user, because in most cases the user compromises itself, right?
Yeah, so first of all, also for that you have solutions, right? Because if you have the it's a custody solution built as a ZTP using dWallet, so you can create a mechanism to recover and secure the dWallet, and eventually, if it's compromised, you can securely recover the account and move the assets to a new dWallet. But at the end of the day, yes, at the end of the day, the user has the keys. Yeah, the user has an authentication, and if you steal the key, you steal the key, right? So there is no way to secure that. So if you think from the perspective of Bitcoin, for example, if you have seed phrase for Bitcoin and you sign transactions on Bitcoin, right? There is no way for anyone to steal your assets without stealing your keys. But if you have WBTC on Ethereum, there is many ways to steal your BTC without having your keys, right? Because you rely on BitGo, and that's the difference. And then think about it from a protocol perspective, right? So if I build a protocol, how I can keep the same trust assumption, how I can still be in a zero trust approach, right? Where as a user, I know that no one can steal my assets, but I can swap, right? Or I can lend, or I can share my NFT, right? Or I can do whatever thing that I want to do across different chains without needing to sacrifice the zero trust architecture, without giving the ownership of my assets to a third party or relying on the third party for the source of truth.
Let's talk a little bit about the network. So we've had two testnet phases, right? The testnet 0 and the testnet 1. Yes. Can you share some updates in the current progress? Is the mainnet launch on the horizon?
Yeah, so we're actually getting really close to launching mainnet. We want probably to have another testnet before testnet 2, incentivized testnet 2 actually, and then to go out. We do have the alpha testnet, which is an environment for builders, right? It's not like the environments that we're working on to try the different set of participants, the validators, and to see how everything works. So the plan for us right now is to have another incentivized testnet and then to launch mainnet. Maybe more than one, but I don't think so. I guess that one will be enough. And it's mostly for us to get ready, because until now we mostly worked on the closed environments, right? Mostly for testing. And yeah, we had like we had a success. We successfully had the network works with many participants, tens and even hundreds. But at the end of the day, you want to test that also in the real world, right? Not only in your physical environment. And we want to have, we're right now, by the way, also improving. So we improved the MPC protocol. We reduced the latency significantly. And it seems like eventually we will get to a sub-second to sign a transaction with the MPC, which is super fast, right? And if you think about doing that with hundreds of participants, it's very, very fast. So that's one. So we have those improvements, and also in general we also added a different type of signing algorithms for the next version, which going to be live soon on the alpha testnet, which is the Schnorr and EDDSA and not only ECDSA. So we're going to have those three major, like it covers almost everything in Web3, those signing algorithms. And then probably we want to have at least one testnet with the new improvements before we launch mainnet. So that's the plan. I guess that next quarter, not sure exactly if it will be early next quarter, mid or end, but it will be probably next quarter.
That sounds really good, Omer. Thank you for that. What are some of the most exciting use cases or integrations you anticipate for the dWallet network?
Yes, so I think first of all, what I really like about use cases in with dWallets is that they are zero trust, and it means that you as the user you keep your native assets all the time, right? So you don't have to sacrifice, you don't have to give somebody else, and to be like in a mode that you know that it's not secure, but I have no way to operate between different chains, and this is the only way to do it. This is the only simple way to do it. So I think what I really like is taking DeFi and making the zero trust version of it, right? We have a project that is working on it, right? So it's not live yet, but they are going to have, to my opinion, a very clever solution around that. And the idea is that you can swap your native BTC with native ETH, right, directly, without wrapping it at the middle or using any type of solution, a castle and moat solution, right? So they're going to be pure zero trust protocol without reverting to castle and moat protocol at any point of time. Also, something that I really like is the concept of, if it's a dWallet, right, you can think about it as a portfolio, right? So you can create a portfolio of assets or portfolio of NFTs, and then you can trade them, right? So I can sell you not just a token, not just an NFT, I can sell you a portfolio, and this portfolio can be multi-chain portfolio, right? So it can be a portfolio that holds an NFT on Solana, an NFT on Ethereum, maybe even on Bitcoin, right? Like different assets, maybe some tokens. Also, another thing that we announced with Espresso, Espresso, the project?
Yes, of course, yes.
So this is something that, something that we announced that we are working on with them, right? It's still like the initial thoughts, but the idea is to use the wallets to trade a sequencing time, right? Or even a full sequencer, right? Because the ownership, you can hold the access to the sequencer using a dWallet, right? Because you have like the multisig, right, of the L2s. So you can do it with a dWallet, and then you can trade it, right? And it can be, right, you can have like the data availability on Celestia, and it can be L2 on using Arbitrum, Orbit, for example, on Ethereum, right? And you can combine all of that and control all of that from a dWallet, and then I can sell you the sequencer, or I can sell you the next 100 block, right? So I give you limited access for the next 100 blocks, so you'll run the sequencer, right? And you will control the blocks. So you can think about it as a way to create kind of a meta account between different chains that you control and you can program, right? They're fully programmable. Another example that I think that it's maybe very simple, right? But it's the custody solution, and we have one project that is working on that. Aeon, great team. They are building a solution. You can think about it as Gnosis safe, but multi-chain and zero trust, right? So you can hold assets on any different chains. They already have a working product. They've, like, I've seen their demos, how they doing, like, Uniswap trades and whatever you want from a dWallet with permission, so they can create a policy and to give different users different access to the assets. We have also a Holonym, Silk. They are building an app, which going to be like a wallet, an interface using dWallet. So it will be the first wallet app built by dWallets.
Oh, nice. And as we know, community is a very important pillar in any Web3 project company. What strategies have you implemented to engage developers, entrepreneurs, and the broader crypto community in the dWallet?
I think at the beginning when we started, so the focus was mostly on the cryptography, the cybersecurity, building, and it was less on the community side. And it was because what we did was very tough, and we didn't have the capacity to focus on both. And people heard about what we do, and we had our investors. Today we have over 50 investors in total. So we have many investors, and people heard about us. And then builders started to hear about us, right? And this is, by the way, how you get the very high quality teams, right? Because you have teams that they don't really get it, right? Because they want to be like the specific things and the same thing, but the very high quality ones, they get it and they vision like what you can do. They think about, okay, so this is new things that I can do. And most of them just came to us organically, right? So the teams that I'm talking about, that building, most of them just came. Some of them even told us, we have been looking for something like dWallet for a long time, and we couldn't find. So they actively looked for a solution. They couldn't find any solution, and we are the first one to bring that solution. And right now, of course, our focus is broader, right? And we try to get more than just the organic ones that can come because they're looking for a solution to solve the problems that we solve, or for ones that are very clever and sophisticated to think about like the future and to vision what they can do with that. So we wanted to make it more broader to everybody. And right now I'm sure that you have seen that we have many partnerships. So I think this is part of our strategy, right? We want to partner, so we add then the SWI overflow, which is the global hackathon with SWI. And so we cost the hackathon with them, and we announced partnerships with the Monad and partnerships with the Aptos and Avail and other chains, L1s, L2s, because we want builders in those ecosystems to use dWallets and to build. And of course we have Ethereum, right? But Ethereum usually it's the default, right? You build the integration for Ethereum. It's not like you need a partnership, and because you have builders there, and there is no reason not to have Ethereum. So this is really the way that we think about it: is let's add many existing ecosystems. Let's help builders in those ecosystems to use the wallets. Like, let's make it simple for them. Let's help them with tools. But at the end of the day, we don't have to change a lot, right? Because for them, like today, if you're a builder on SWI, you can use the wallets, right? And it will be super simple. You do it from a smart contract on SWI. It will be from Move. You have like our module, the dWallet module. You just import that and you can do it. Same thing on Ethereum. On Ethereum, it's a bit different, but it's the same concept at the end of the day.
Yes, and we are talking about multi-chain because that is the future, right? We want everything to be multi-chain.
Exactly. Yeah. So, by the way, what we're talking about is only on the integration for builders. You can use dWallet on any other chain, right? So we have no limit. So if you are builders on SWI and using the integration, it means that you can control the dWallet from the smart contract, but you can generate signatures for Bitcoin, for Solana, for Ethereum, for any chain that you want, Avalanche, right? So the signature generation is something that you can use for anything.
Mm-hmm. But as the wallets introduce new capabilities and security measures, what are your thoughts on the regulatory landscape? How is the wallet network positioned to navigate potential regulatory challenges in the blockchain space?
Yeah, so if you think about it, I think one of many issues that I have seen, at least from a regulatory perspective, is the idea of custody, right? Like, who holds the assets? And if you think about it, by the way, many of the custody and node solutions, it's not clear if it's really decentralized or not, right? Because you have some participants, like I know that in some federated MPC solutions, you have 5 participants or 10. I don't know if it's enough, but even if it's enough, it's still very low. It's still very limited. And we brought the first solution that it's not just zero trust, and the user knows that there is no way to steal the assets for them, right? The user has full control all the time of their own assets, but also all the side of the blockchain is very decentralized. We can get to hundreds to thousands of participants for the first time, right? So we combined those two breakthroughs together to one solution. And I think from regulatory perspective, we treat it as decentralized custody, which is a kind of a self-custody at the end of the day, right? Because you have the user that needs to be part of it, right? So it's self-custodian from the user side. And because the network is decentralized, then you don't really have the issues of a centralized entity that does the custody and holds the assets for you.
Beyond your current work with dWallet, what excites you the most about the broader crypto space? Are there any trends or verticals that particularly inspire you?
So first of all, I think, like in general, I really believe in the concept of creating an infrastructure, a solution where you don't have to trust the participants directly, right? Like you have today. And it's open and everybody can be part of it. I really believe it will be the future, because I think in the future, the way that I imagine the future is based on those concepts, right? Of an infrastructure that is very decentralized, is open to everybody, and not the way that we have it today, where it's very centralized, it's very closed, it's very hard to use. And I'm not just talking about the banking system. I know that people in crypto, their focus is mostly on that. I think in general, like even if you think about social networks, right? Like think about any solution that today they are very centralized, they are really controlled, they are very limited. So I think from the future perspective, I really believe in that. And also because of it, I really believe in the aspects that new cryptography brings. And those aspects are mostly in the area of, zero knowledge, MPC, FHE, where you can create new things, right? When you can keep privacy and when you can keep solutions, build new type of solutions. And again, I don't think about it specifically from the perspective of, people think about it maybe as creating private pools or those stuff. I don't think about it from the perspective of how you can have money and you can do stuff without other people knowing about it. It's more about how you enable new type of use cases, right? So we talked about social networks, so maybe there are some features that you wanted to be private, right? And I think ZK and FHE and MPC, those are the primitives in cryptography to enable those solutions. And I guess that in the next few years, we will see a huge increase in those solutions and new schemes and new types of protocols and schemes and solutions. So this is really the way that I think the future of Web3 will be.
For all the builders out there that are looking to contribute, what advice would you give them?
So I think, in crypto today, I feel like we have a lot of the same, right? What I've seen is that many builders trying to build the same thing and to improve it a little bit, which I get. It's like this is the simple way to move forward, right? Just take something that exists and make it like 2 times better or 50 times better. But I think for the long term, we need stuff that are 10 times better, right? And not just to improve a little bit existing stuff. So I think from builders, think about use cases, new type of use cases, people that other haven't thought about yet, or thought and they just at the beginning, right? And create new solutions, new stuff that others don't do. Don't just try to improve existing stuff a little bit.
That brings us to the end of our conversation with Omer. You've been great. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much, Arjun. Thank you for having me today.